You ever wonder why a guy with $50,000 in the bank and zero debt is considered untrustworthy by a bank? Or why your score drops the moment you actually pay off a loan? Most people think a credit score is a measure of financial responsibility. It's not. It's a value extraction rating. It's a score that tells a bank how much money they can suck out of your life before you break. We live in a world where you can't rent an apartment, get a decent insurance rate, or sometimes even get a job without a three-digit number that didn't even exist when your parents were buying their first home. Today, we're deconstructing the credit score industrial complex. I'm going to show you how the math is rigged, why the system wants you just enough in debt, and most importantly, how to build a life where that number doesn't control your pulse. The 1989 glitch. Let's start with a history lesson that most people under the age of 40 don't even realize is true. The FICO score, the thing that currently dictates whether you can live in a decent zip code or drive a car with a reasonable monthly payment, wasn't invented until 1989. Before 1989, if you wanted a loan, you sat down with a human being. A local banker looked at your history, your character, your employment, and your actual cash on hand. It was a human-to-human transaction. But in the late 80s, the financial industry realized that humans are expensive and slow. They needed a way to commoditize trust. They needed a way to turn you into a standardized product that could be traded on the stock market. So they built an algorithm, and they called it FICO. Here is the irony. The credit score was marketed as a way to make lending fairer by removing human bias. But all it really did was move the goalposts. It took the power out of your hands and put it into the hands of three private, for-profit corporations: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Pause and think about that for a second. These aren't government agencies. You didn't vote for them. You never signed a contract with them. Yet, they hold a digital dossier on every single financial move you've made since you were 18. You are the product. Your debt is their inventory. And they sell that data back to the banks, so the banks can figure out exactly how much interest they can charge you without you filing for bankruptcy. It's the ultimate rigged game because you are forced to play, but you aren't allowed to see the source code. The myth of financial responsibility. The biggest lie we are told is that a high credit score means you are good with money. That is total nonsense. You can be a billionaire with zero debt and have a thin file or a mediocre score. On the other hand, you can be a guy with $40,000 in credit card debt, paying $800 a month in interest, and have a perfect 800 score. Who is actually better with money? The guy with the cash, or the guy who is a perfect debt slave? The system rewards the slave. The system loves the guy who carries a balance, who never misses a payment, but never actually escapes the loop. If you pay off your house today, if you literally achieve the American dream and own your roof outright, your credit score will likely drop. Think about how insane that is. You have achieved the peak of financial stability, and the algorithm punishes you for it. Why? Because you are no longer profitable. You have exited the extraction zone. The mechanics of the trap utilization. Let's talk about the math they don't teach you in high school. Let's talk about credit utilization. This is the funniest part of the whole scam. A bank gives you a $10,000 limit on a credit card. They tell you, here, you are a trusted customer. Use this money. But the moment you actually use $5,000 of it, even if you have the cash in the bank to pay it off, your score tanks. They call it utilization stress. The algorithm sees you using the tool they gave you and it panics. It says, wait, he's actually using the credit? He must be desperate. It's like being invited to a buffet, but being kicked out the moment you put food on your plate. The rule, they tell you, is to stay under 30%. But the secret rule is to stay under 1%. They want you to have the capacity to go into debt, but they punish you the moment you actually do it. It's a psychological leash designed to keep you constantly monitoring your standing with the masters of the game. The subscription of everything. This leads us into the 2026 reality we are living in right now. We have entered the era of the subscription of everything. You don't own your music, you subscribe to Spotify. You don't own your software, you subscribe to Adobe. You don't own your car, you lease it or finance it on a 72-month subscription plan. And your credit score is the gatekeeper to this entire lifestyle. If your score is 620, your subscription to a Ford F-150 costs you $900 a month. If your score is 780, that same subscription costs $600. The system isn't charging you for the car, it's charging you for your compliance rating. In 2026, we've seen the rise of institutional landlords. Huge corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard are buying up entire neighborhoods of single-family homes. They don't want to sell them to you. They want to rent them back to you forever. And how do they decide who gets to live in their houses? The credit score. If you have a 650 score, you are trapped. You can't get a mortgage to buy your own home, so you are forced to pay 30% more in rent to a corporation that uses your rent payments to buy more houses. It's a closed loop. The credit score is the fence that keeps the renter class inside the yard while the asset class collects the checks. The anxiety loop. And then there is the mental toll. I want you to really think about the last time you checked your credit score on an app like Credit Karma or through your bank. Did you feel a slight ping of anxiety? Did you feel a sense of relief when it went up 5 points or a pit in your stomach when it dropped 12? That is social engineering. It's gamification applied to your survival. They have turned your ability to provide a roof for your family into a mobile game. They want you checking that number. They want you obsessed with it. Because as long as you are obsessed with your credit score, you aren't focusing on your net worth. Net worth is what you own. Credit score is how much you can borrow. One is freedom, the other is a higher quality cage. The system wants you to have a high credit score and a low net worth. That is the ideal consumer, someone who has the capacity to buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't like, all while paying 22% interest for the privilege. The employment leverage trap. Now, let's go somewhere most people don't think to look. Your job. You might think your credit score only matters when you're standing in a car dealership or sitting across from a mortgage broker. But in 2026, the credit score has become the shadow resume. Have you ever applied for a job and had to check a box buried in the fine print that gives the employer permission to run a background check? Most people think they're looking for a criminal record. And they are. But in many industries, especially in finance, tech, and even high-level retail, they are looking at your credit report. Why? They'll tell you it's to measure integrity. They'll say that if you can't manage your own money, you can't be trusted with the company's money. But let's look at the exit protocol perspective. What does a high debt load really tell an employer? It tells them you have leverage. Think about it from the perspective of a CEO, who is a more stable employee. The guy with zero debt, a year's worth of expenses in a high-yield savings account, and no car payment. Or the guy with a 740 credit score, a $900 monthly truck payment, and a mortgage that eats up 40% of his take-home pay. The guy with the debt is safer. He can't afford to quit. He can't afford to stand up to a toxic boss. He can't afford to take a 3-month gap to start his own business. The credit system doesn't just measure your ability to pay back a loan, it measures how tightly the golden handcuffs are locked around your wrists. In the 2026 economy, a high credit score is often used as a proxy for compliance. It proves you are a reliable participant in the machine. You have too much to lose to break the rules. This is the hidden layer of the system. It's not just about money. It's about control over your labor. The rise of the ghost score. And it's getting weirder. We are seeing the rise of what I call the ghost score. In the last couple of years, the traditional FICO score has started to merge with alternative data. In 2026, your score isn't just about your Discover card or your student loans. Big data companies are now selling predictive stability scores to corporations. They look at your utility payments. They look at how often you move. They look at your buy now, pay later history, even the stuff that doesn't officially hit your credit report. If you use Klarna to buy a pair of sneakers, and then you use Affirm for a new monitor, and then you use another service for your groceries. Even if you pay every single one of them back on time, the ghost algorithms flag that behavior. They see micro-stress. They see someone who is living paycheck to paycheck and using short-term high-interest leverage to survive. This information is being used to adjust your insurance premiums. Have you noticed your car insurance went up 20% this year, even though you didn't have an accident? It might not be inflation. It might be your insurance score, a metric that uses your credit data to predict how likely you are to file a claim. The system is literally charging you more for risk simply because you aren't playing the credit game perfectly. This is a poverty tax disguised as an algorithm. It's expensive to be poor, but it's even more expensive to be unscored. The institutional landlord gate. Let's talk about the American dream of 2026, or rather the American rental. We've touched on how big investment firms are buying up houses, but let's look at how they use the credit system as a digital wall. In a traditional neighborhood, you might have bought a house from a guy named Dave. Dave didn't care about your debt-to-income ratio as long as the bank cleared the check. But when a multi-billion-dollar corporation owns 4,000 houses in your county, they don't know you. They don't care about you. They use a hard floor credit requirement. If the algorithm says you need a 680 to rent and you have a 679, you are denied. Automatically. There is no human to talk to, no character to prove. This creates a permanent underclass. If you can't get into a stable rental because of a medical bill that went to collections 5 years ago, you are forced into substandard housing. You end up paying more in rent for a worse place, which prevents you from saving money, which prevents you from ever fixing your credit. It's a whirlpool. The system is designed to keep the asset owners on top and the renters at the bottom, and the credit score is the filter that decides which side of the line you stand on. This is why I say the system is rigged. It's not a ladder, it's a gate. The social credit creep. If you look at what's happening globally, the line between financial credit and social credit is blurring. In 2026, your digital footprint is becoming part of your financial identity. We're seeing the beginning of behavioral underwriting. Banks are starting to look at where you spend your money, not just how much you spend. If the algorithm sees you spending a lot of money on gambling, or at bars, or even on certain types of online entertainment, it can adjust your internal risk rating with that bank. You might have an 800 FICO score, but that bank might suddenly decide to lower your credit limit or deny you a personal loan because your lifestyle data suggests a future risk. This is the ultimate system move. It's the colonization of your personal life by financial institutions. They want to predict your future before you even live it. They want to know if you're going to lose your job before your boss even tells you. And they're using every scrap of data you generate, from your GPS location on your phone to your Amazon purchase history, to build a virtual you that they can stress test. When you see a CS2 Pro hitting a perfect flick shot, that's skill and muscle memory. But when the credit system hits you with a random interest rate hike, or a denied application, that's not a mistake. That's the algorithm doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect the capital of the elite by predicting the failure of the individual, the illusion of choice. Every time you open an app and it asks you to check your score for free, you are being invited back into the cage. It's designed to look like a tool for your empowerment. Look, you went up 3 points. Good job. Here's a pre-approved offer for a credit card you don't need. It's like a Skinner box. They give you a little hit of dopamine for winning the credit game, so you keep playing. They want you focused on that number so you don't notice the real wealth being siphoned away in the form of interest, fees, and data. You have the choice to not participate, but they've made that choice so painful that most people never even consider it. Try renting a car without a credit card in 2026. Try booking a hotel. Try getting a cell phone plan without a credit check. The infrastructure of modern life has been built on top of this credit layer, making it nearly impossible to exist without a digital master watching your every move. But here is the secret they don't want you to know. The exit isn't about having a 0 score. The exit is about achieving a state where the score doesn't matter. It's about financial decoupling, the velocity of your debt. Let's talk about the physics of money for a second. In the banking world, they talk about something called the velocity of money. It's basically a measure of how fast a dollar moves through the economy. But in the world of the credit score industrial complex, there is a different kind of velocity, the velocity of your debt. Think about how a bank makes money. They aren't in the business of lending money, they are in the business of buying your future time. When you sign for a 30-year mortgage at 7%, you aren't just buying a house. You are selling the bank 30 years of your Monday mornings. You are giving them the first cut of every hour you work for the next 3 decades. The credit score is the tool they use to set the price of your time. If your score is low, your time is cheap to them, so they charge you more interest. If your score is high, they give you a discount on that interest, just to make sure you stay in the game. But either way, the goal is the same: to keep the velocity of your payments constant. They don't want you to pay off the debt early. That's why some loans have prepayment penalties. Think about how insane that is. You are being penalized for being too responsible. It's because when you pay off a loan early, you are killing the bank's future revenue stream. You are taking your time back. The system is designed to keep you in a state of perpetual payment. As long as you have a monthly bill, you are a predictable, taxable, and controllable unit of the economy. The moment you owe 0, you become a wild card, and the system hates wild cards. The 1% utilization hack, playing the game. Now, if you want to exit, you first have to understand how to manipulate the algorithm so it leaves you alone. Since we've established that the credit score is a compliance rating, you need to show the machine exactly what it wants to see, with the absolute minimum amount of effort. The biggest mistake people make is thinking they need to carry a balance to show history. Never do this. Carrying a balance and paying interest is like giving a donation to a billion-dollar bank for no reason. Here is the 1% hack. If you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit, the algorithm wants to see that you are active, but not stressed. If you spend 0, the algorithm thinks the account is dormant, and it might actually lower your score because you aren't providing data. If you spend 4,000, it thinks you're in a crisis. The sweet spot, the cheat code, is 1%. You put one small subscription on that card, a $10 Netflix bill. That's it. You set it to auto-pay the full balance every month. This tells the algorithm 2 things. 1, you are active. 2, you have a 99% reserve capacity. In the eyes of the machine, you are the ultimate safe bet. Your score will skyrocket not because you're a good person, but because you are a perfect data point. This is how you decouple. You use the system to build the score you need for the big moves, like a mortgage, while keeping your actual life 99% cash-based. You play the game on their screen, but you live your life on your own. Building invisible capital. While you're gaming the score, you need to be building what I call invisible capital. This is wealth that the credit bureaus can't see, can't track, and can't use against you. In 2026, everyone is obsessed with their digital identity. But your financial identity is much more dangerous. Every time you use a credit card, you are leaving a breadcrumb. The banks know you bought a coffee at 8:15 a.m. They know you bought a new pair of tires. They know you're subscribed to a certain political magazine. This data is aggregated and used to build a risk profile that follows you forever. Invisible capital is the stuff they can't touch. It's your emergency fund in a separate local credit union that doesn't report to the same aggressive data sharing networks. It's physical assets. It's skills. It's a side business, like the one you're building right now, that generates cash flow outside of a traditional W-2 paycheck. The system wants you to rely on access to credit as your safety net. They want you to think, if the car breaks down, I'll just put it on the card. That thought is a trap. It keeps you dependent on the score. When you have invisible capital, actual cash in a drawer or a liquid account, the credit score loses its power over your heart rate. If your score drops 50 points, who cares? You don't need their permission to fix your car. You don't need their permission to survive. This is the first step of the exit protocol. You stop using credit as a safety net and start using it as a surgical tool. The 2026 New Frontier, peer-to-peer and hard assets. As we move further into 2026, we are seeing a massive fracturing of the traditional financial system. People are tired of the gatekeepers. We are seeing the return of relationship lending in the form of decentralized finance and peer-to-peer networks. There are now platforms where you can borrow against your own assets, like gold or even certain digital assets, without a credit check. Why? Because the asset itself is the collateral. The lender doesn't care if you have a 600 score or an 800 score because they aren't betting on your compliance rating. They are betting on the value of the asset. This is where the exit truly begins. You shift your focus from building credit to acquiring assets. In the old system, you used your credit to get assets. In the new system, your assets are your credit. If you own a piece of land or a portfolio of cash-flowing websites or a stockpile of silver, you have universal credit. You don't need FICO's blessing to prove you have value. The world recognizes the value. As the credit score industrial complex becomes more social and more behavioral, the only way to win is to own things that exist outside of their permission layer. The psychology of the exit. Let's wrap this up with the most important part, the psychology. Most people watch a video like this, or they watch me playing CS2, and they think of it as entertainment. They hear the math, they hear the history, and they say, yeah, that makes sense. And then they go right back to checking their Credit Karma app 3 times a day. Breaking the credit spell is hard. It's been programmed into us since we got our first student credit card at 18. We've been told that a high score is a badge of adulthood. We've been told that debt is a tool. But I'm telling you, in the 2026 economy, debt is a tracking device. It is the primary way the institutions keep tabs on the movement and the productivity of the population. When you have a balance, you are on the grid. When you are debt-free and asset-heavy, you become opaque. The goal of the exit protocol isn't to be poor and live in the woods. The goal is to be high net worth and low profile. You want to be the person who has the 800 score, so you can get the 3% mortgage on a fourplex, use the rental income to pay the debt, and then, essentially, disappear from the consumer economy. You want to use their rigged game to buy your freedom, and then stop playing? If you've listened to all 30 minutes of this, you're already thinking differently than 99% of the people walking around today. You're starting to see the matrix of the financial system. You're starting to see that the score is just a set of instructions for the sheep. Don't be a sheep. Be the person who understands the code. Build your invisible capital. Game the compliance rating until you don't need it anymore. And never ever sell your future time for a present-day vanity purchase.